Oui.
Homemade fresh pasta is super easy. It's just 500 grams of pasta flour and then 350 grams of eggs measured in the shells.
Breaching the dam.
Pasta dough is just a combination of flour, eggs, and a little bit of thyme, and you end up with something delicious. So you start off with getting a flour and making a mound of it, and then you need to make a well in the centre into which you break your eggs. And then it's got to be a very gentle process of you using a fork and just gradually combining the dry flour in with your eggs, and a little bit of salt. There's a little bit of salt in there as well. And you really have to be patient. Once you get to a point that it's sort of starting to come together and it's lost that really liquidy, runny look, then you can use your scraper or still use your fork to start to combine greater amounts of the flour into it. Once you have it pretty much combined, then it's time to get in with your hands. And it can be tempting at that stage. You think it looks a bit dry, it looks a bit wet, but again, you need to be patient because it will come together.
It will come together. That's really nice pasta. Let's try it. Because invariably it will come together, and if you've added more flour or water, then the dough isn't going to be the consistency that you need, and it's not going to shape or form into what you want. But you have to be patient. It's quite therapeutic actually if you just relax while you're doing it.
And so then we just start kneading it, and it will go from a sort of sandy, sort of rough looking texture to becoming smoother and smoother as you activate the gluten and the strands sort of lengthen. So patience is the key. I am doing this on a 38-degree day, probably not one of my wisest decisions, but I did have some lovely peas from the garden that I needed to use, and I thought, well, and I also have mint in the garden, and I had some goat's cheese. So, for me it's like maths, 1 + 1 + 1 = let's make some pea and goat's cheese and mint ravioli.
We'll end up in a very smooth dough. It doesn't look like it at this point. It looks very crumbly, sandy, a bit almost like cement, but don't panic, that's how it's supposed to look at this stage. So I'm going to knead it now to activate the gluten. So it makes long strands that then make it look stretchy and glossy. You can do it in the food processor or your mixer, but I just find you don't get the same elasticity in the pasta, because I think there's something about kneading it. So you can see it's starting to look smoother now. Just continue kneading it basically till it has a nice smooth look to it. And all the dry is incorporated. So whilst it looked very dry and sandy to start off with, it actually was the perfect amount of wet and dry. You can actually see it changing as you knead it. So just push with your bottoms of your hand, turn it sort of like a quarter turn. And you're just working your way around the dough so it all gets done. You don't need to go like this, in the same spot. That's not going to really work. You want it to be nice and even. So the consistency's now changed completely, but it's not there yet. You need all these little bits to sort of like join up.
So to make pasta, you need quite a fine flour. They actually do call it a pasta flour sometimes, or a 000. I'm using a flour that comes locally from a company called Séquoia. So it's got a lovely colour to it, and I'll be really interested to see what it's like once it's cooked up. But it looks good at this stage. And now I'm just cutting it into pieces to put through the rolling machine. Now I have to turn it into the sheets to make the ravioli.
So you make it into a square?
Yeah, so you take as square as possible and of sort of the same thickness, because the first bit is always, the first pass through is often the most difficult. So we want to sort of push it out with our fingers and make it thin, but try and keep it roughly in a square. It will help later on if it stays in shape. And then you can actually use a rolling pin, and you can roll out the pasta until it's the desired thickness. But I like to do it with a roller, and I have an attachment for my Kenwood chef, which makes life much easier. But you can just as easily use the one that you roll it with your hand. So now that I've got my first piece of pasta dough at a thickness that will go through the roller, you always start on the widest setting of the roller. So you start at 0 or 1 depending on what it is, and then just the mixer is on very low, and you just gradually put it through. You don't try and force it, because that first bit, it's quite fat. Then we have to fold it in 3. And it should probably fold it in 4 because it's got itself a little bit of a tail. And put it through again from the edges first on the same setting. I'm wanting to try and keep it as nice and square as possible. So I'm going to do that again on the same setting. This is really, as much as anything, getting it into a nice shape before you then start to make it much thinner. So through the roller, just very gently. You don't need to force it, you don't need to pull it. Just very gently put it through, and you've got then quite a nice sheet of pasta. So I'm not going to fold it anymore, but I'm just going to put it through once again on that setting. Then we just move it up to number 2, and we're going to put it, I like to alternate what ends go in. And we're just going to let it go through nice and gently. Again, no forcing it or anything. And we move to number 3. And as we go through the settings, it's going to get thinner and much longer. So you're going to get to a point where you're going to need to support it on the end coming out so that it doesn't stretch, the weight of it doesn't stretch. Up to number 5 now. We're going to go to number 6. It is all looking very nice at this stage. Very nice flour, I think. As I said, it was the first time I've used this flour for making pasta, but it looks really good. But it's getting very long. Now, sometimes at this point, if it's getting too long to handle, just cut it in half. So this thickness is probably the thickness you'd stop at if you were making lasagna. But because I'm going to make a ravioli and I like it a little bit thin, I'm going to go to the thinnest setting and just give it one more go through, maybe 2. See what it looks like at the end. The secret is just be very gentle with it. Don't rush it, because it is getting quite long now. If you mess it up, you can roll it back through. I've got a bit wonky on the side there, so just try and use my top hand to level it back up again. And I'm just going to let it cool on the ground because it's actually getting quite long. So this is a good thickness for what I want to do. As you can see, you can just see my hand through it. So that should be really, really lovely for ravioli. So now I've got my sheet. I need a little bit of flour on my bench so it doesn't stick. Ideally, you want to keep it as flat as possible. Now I'm going to actually cut it in half because it's just going to be a bit easier to handle. So I've got my 2 sheets here. Probably won't be equal. I probably should have done them equal. But you can see we've got 2 nice straight sheets of pasta. So you just want a teaspoonful of your mixture. So the mixture is peas, fresh peas, some lemon juice, some olive oil, goat's cheese and some mint. Very simple. And we need our sheets to stick together, so we just want a little bit of water between each one and around the edges. We'll just help the sheets to stick. Not much, just enough to help them grab together. Okay, I'm just going to turn this sheet because it's the same sheet, so it's the same width. So I'm just going to lay it on top of here, and I want it to go to the edges because I know they're the same size. So just flatten down a little bit. And I'm just going to press all the way around the edges. It's already started to stick. Okay, you can just pull it apart and just want those 2 edges to go together. And just flatten your mixture down, be little mounds down a little bit to help that happen. And then I'm going to just use my hand to do a bit in between. Doesn't have to be perfect. What we don't want though is we don't want too much air in there, so use our fingers and push out any air that's there. Sort of push the air towards the edges and it will come out normally. If we have too much air in, then they're more likely to explode when you cook them. It's got a bit there, it doesn't want to come out. It's stuck down a bit too. Should have done the middle one first before I did the side bits. Okay. Then you can either get a knife and just cut it between the rows, or you can just use like a little pastry roller, pasta roller. So I'm just going to cut between them on the flat bit. Maybe I'll just cut a bit off the end, it's a bit thick at the end there. And then cut all the way down the middle. And then we have little ravioli. And you're just going to, some of these have got a little bit of air in, so just gradually, gently squeeze that out. Push it to the edge and it should come out. If you don't get all the air out, don't panic. It's got lots. Once completed, your ravioli can then just go on a tray and into the fridge until you're ready to cook them. To cook them, just get a pan of salted water on the boil and then pop them in. It'll be anywhere from 5 to 8 minutes. After that, you can choose whatever sauce you like. Tonight, I actually chose just simple olive oil and black pepper sauce with some Parmesan cheese. To serve, I served 5 of these, given the size of them. And what we're looking for is good texture, that they held together, and a sort of slightly glossy surface.
How's the test? You taste it. Good. Delicious.
So for all those playing along at home, fresh pasta is worth having a go, and you can do whatever filling you want in it, but peas, goat's cheese and mint is pretty delicious. Bon appetit.